it really hammers along and it sounds awesome. Like, this is definitely over and above anything else in this class in terms of the sound and excitement. Now, you're probably not going to care, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But Maserati, for me, as a kid growing up, was the brand. I had a poster on my wall of a 90s Ghibli Quattroporte, and I just thought it was the best thing ever. I remember it had a 3.2 litre V8, twin turbo V8, so small capacity V8, with a 6-speed manual and rear wheel drive. It just seemed so exotic, like I'd never see one of those in real life. Fast forward to 2025, and here we are with a Maserati mid-size SUV. By the way, I'm not Italian, so some of the words that I'm pronouncing here are going to be incorrect. So you might as well just get over that now. I call this the Maserati Grecale. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I'm pretty sure it's something like that. We could even call it the Grecale if you prefer. It's basically a Porsche Macan rival, very high-end. This is one of 2 variants available in Australia, the Modena and the Trofeo. This is the Trofeo, high-performance model. It's based on the same Giorgio platform as the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, except unlike the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, or actually we'll call it the Quadrifoglio because I know that really pisses off Alfa Romeo fans. This features a new 3-litre Nettuno engine, 3-litre twin turbo V6, up from the 2.9 twin turbo V6 in the Alfa Romeo. A little bit more power and a little bit more torque, 620 Newton meters compared with 600, and 390 kilowatts versus 375 in the Stelvio. This is a bit heavier though. It's more of a luxurious product, while the Stelvio is more of a sort of sports car, I guess you could say. This is more of like a grand touring, top speed kind of car. It still handles very well, still has the same platform as I said. The biggest change that I've noticed straight away is this features air suspension. So it's more adaptable, it can cruise better, but it also has kind of better bracing on rough roads. So we're going to go for a drive in a minute up the usual winding road. Very bumpy surface, little ripples and stuff everywhere. I prefer to drive this down this particular road than the Stelvio because of the suspension. It's just able to absorb the bumps more dynamically. It doesn't throw the car around. Not that the Alfa Romeo is bad, it's actually got a very good suspension setup. This just takes it up to another level in my opinion. In terms of the design, I don't think it looks Maserati enough. Like, it does have the big grille at the front with the 8 vertical bars, and then the huge badge at the front there as well. But the headlights kind of look like they're off a Ford Puma or something like that. And then around at the back, it just doesn't look that aggressive and sporty. Like, it's got these drooping taillights that just come down here, and that looks good on a coupe or something like that when the body, you know, comes down to here and finishes kind of thing. But because it drops down from the tailgate, it kind of just doesn't pair in quite right in my opinion. Like, it still looks good, but if you have a look at Maserati's history, yeah, I don't know if this stands out. It does have a very chunky carbon fiber diffuser down below with quad outlet exhausts. Then some nicely bolstered wheel arches front and rear. That's to accommodate the 21-inch alloy wheels measuring 10 inches wide on the back, with, what have we got there? 295/35 tyres on the back. Full floating discs, front and rear, multi-piston calipers on the back, and then, yeah, huge 6-piston calipers on the front. Trademark signs that this is a Maserati. You've got the 3 grills on the front guard, and then the Trident badge on the D pillar or C pillar. It does look very prestige in this color, in my opinion. It's kind of like a deep, rich blue. But yeah, overall, I just don't think it stands out all that much compared with other existing Maserati products, but especially its historic products. It's got electric door handles, so you just push there's a button kind of underneath all of that, and then to open the door, you just push the button there, and it pops the latch. And then inside, it does look pretty exotic. It's got carbon fiber trimmings around the dash and door trims. You've got a digital clock up there as well, and a nice sports steering wheel with paddle shifters mounted correctly on the steering column rather than the steering wheel. And nice and big as well, so it doesn't matter what angle you've got the steering wheel at, you can always kind of reach a part of the paddle there. You've got nice seats in the front, good side bolstering. But yeah, you don't get any of that really exotic stuff like you used to with that 1990s Ghibli that I remember. Like, it had quilted leather and just the interior was totally different to any other vehicle, whereas this, you could mistake it for pretty much any SUV on the market today, even cheap ones, because it's got the big touchscreen, which they all have, and it's got contrast stitching, which they all have these days, and even carbon fiber. This is real carbon fiber, while cheap models might have fake carbon fiber, but you know, it looks the same. You have to explain to people that this has got real carbon fiber. I guess knowing that it's a Maserati, you don't have to do any explaining because it's a Maserati, so you kind of get away with that sort of thing. Start button on the steering wheel, fully digital instrument cluster. Again, that doesn't look special. It doesn't look like it's any different to a lot of the touch screens out at the moment. And then even the touch screen down here, nothing particularly interesting about it. It's got all your different modes and settings you can play around with, your safety settings. And you do have some live monitoring here, like your turbo boost gauge and all of that, torque management, consumption history. I'm averaging around 13 litres per 100, but I have been giving it a good old thrash, so you could probably get lower than that. It does have some performance timers that you can use as well. But yeah, overall, I have to say that the interior is a little bit underwhelming considering the price of this. Now, this starts from just under $190,000 excluding on-road costs. So it's a 200 grand car, and sitting in it, it doesn't really feel like a $200,000 car. It's not necessarily Maserati's fault, it's just that the other brands, including the cheaper ones, whether they've copied or not, it doesn't matter, they're all up to the same sort of setting. Like, it feels and looks pretty much the same. In terms of passenger space though, yeah, I've got an excellent driving position, plenty of headroom for me at least. I'm 170 centimeters. I've got a nice chunky console, but it's not too chunky that it kind of intrudes on the perception of space. Yeah, and a really good driving position. I can lower the seat right down if I want to. Steering wheel falls perfectly at my chest. Give it a bit of a rev. It sounds, as you'll see in the upcoming performance tests and the exterior shots, it sounds almost identical to the Stelvio Quadrifoglio. It's got the same raspiness, it's got the same pops and bangs. It might be slightly deeper at certain revs, but overall, if you put it into Sport Plus mode or whatever it is, it's, what is it? Corsa mode, sorry. I'll just show you that. You've got Comfort, GT, Sport, and Corsa. And when you put it in Corsa mode, the stability control automatically turns off or turns into a kind of track setting that allows some slip. And then down below here, you've also got a separate suspension mode. So you can put it in Corsa mode and then flick back to the comfort suspension. So you've got S and H, which is convenient because sometimes you know, if you're driving around a track that's a little bit bumpy, like you know, Wakefield Park or something like that, you might want to leave it in the sort of comfort mode, and then when you're hitting a really smooth track like Phillip Island or whatever, then you can put it into the sport setting and it's really tensioned up. I find both settings quite nice because of the air suspension. Even in the stiffest mode, it's able to absorb the bumps and it doesn't feel uncomfortable or too rigid. It just changes the response or the reaction time of the suspension. And then up at the back, pretty average kind of space. I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just kind of fits in with the market. Excellent leg room there in my seating position. You've even got a bit of leg room between this the seat and the center console that protrudes out. You've got climate controls and seat heating, as well as charging ports down below. There's also a flip down armrest with twin cup holders and then little bottle holders in the doors. While we're down here, yeah, there is some scratchy plastics lower down. I mean, it's not too scratchy, it's a pretty sturdy feeling plastic, but for 200 grand, I'd probably, you know, expect all of that to be covered in leather as standard. I'm sure you can option some of this stuff, but yeah, for this sort of price range, and if you look at those previous Maserati models, they would have had some sort of, you know, velour or some trim all the way down everywhere you look. Whereas to see plastic anywhere, I think, is a little bit disappointing for this price range. Being a mid-size SUV, it is a practical vehicle. You've got 570 litres of storage space there, which is quite good for this class. They usually offer around 550. By they, I mean, you know, the typical German rivals. 550 to 600 is pretty good. So 570 is right on point. We've got tabs on the sideboard to flip down the rear seats, 12-volt socket, lots of hooks and straps and so on to keep your things secure, tie down points, and then some extra storage under the floor, as well as a tyre repair kit. So on first impressions, it doesn't really stand out, especially for the price. You could get, you know, or you could spend $100,000 on a mid-size SUV and get a pretty similar package in terms of the packaging and trimmings and all of that. I mean, it does have that carbon fiber stuff. I do love the attention to details in the wheels as well. They're really intricately cut, and the discs hiding behind there. And I do like the paintwork, as I said. But yeah, overall, you're getting a practical mid-size SUV, which I think is good. You know, Maserati could have made a more exotic mid-size SUV that had not much boot space or something like that and more dramatic, but then it would lose practicality. So you could definitely drive this every day, use it as your family car, and pick up the groceries, pick up the kids or whatever. There's everything that a mid-size SUV has in terms of practicality. What I want to do now though is go for a drive so I can showcase for you what this thing is like, because the driving character far outweighs the kind of normality of the rest of it. Like, as we said, it's a little bit underwhelming in some areas for its price, but when you drive it, yeah, it just changes everything. So let's go for a drive. To start with, let's just drive it as a practical luxury mid-size SUV. I'm in the standard mode, the GT mode. As you go through the different modes, the suspension adjusts its height as well as the response or stiffness. And yeah, this is very relaxed. I can feel there's a bit of sort of wheel travel movement happening. It's absorbing the bumps. It just feels comfortable and relaxed. I guess you don't really get the sense that this is a $200,000 car driving in this sort of style or this mode. You can hear the engine sort of burbling away in the background, but it's not very loud or anything. It doesn't start up like some performance SUVs. Even the Stelvio Quadrifoglio to some extent might sound a little bit more aggressive in the standard mode. But this is a luxury car as well. Maserati is known for grand touring luxury, so you want it to be comfortable and soothing on the highway, and this is definitely very comfortable and relaxing, even though it is the performance model and has epic performance when you want it. When you're just driving normal, it's relaxing. The steering feels really good. It's kind of like the Stelvio, I guess, in that sense. It's very direct. It's not as touchy as the Stelvio. The Stelvio is, you just move it a little bit and it starts darting all over the place. This is a tiny bit more relaxed, and in that sense I prefer this steering over the Stelvio, just because it's still very good, communicative. I can feel what's going on. It's just not so darty. I mean, you get used to the Stelvio, but this is just a little bit more conventional in that sense. Fuel economy, yeah, I'm averaging 13.9 litres per 100 at the moment, but I reckon you could get it much lower than that with normal use, extended normal use. I've only been driving this for about a week and I've enjoyed it. So the fuel economy is going to be a bit higher for me. In terms of visibility and all of that, it's pretty good out the front. It's got a slightly sort of raised dash and door sills, but I am sitting very low, and overall the vision out the front corner here is not the best. I can see the bit of a gap between the pillar and the mirror, but it's not great. There are rivals that offer more visibility through that area. But out the front, it's great. I've got a good sense of where the wheels are. The bonnet drops right down pretty quickly. So yeah, I can easily park this. I don't feel nervous in tight situations. And then out the back, it's a little bit confined, mainly due to the big headrests that stick up for comfort, obviously. But the rear windscreen is also a little bit narrow compared with some luxury mid-size SUVs. It just depends what you want. This is more towards high performance, high-end exotica, whereas yeah, there are other more practical options in this segment, but they won't be as passionate, they won't be as quick, and they won't offer the same sort of performance as this. So speaking of which, we'll flick it over to the Corsa mode now. You can actually leave it in D, even in coarser mode, so you don't have to change gears if you don't want to, and it's not too aggressive, the shift pattern. Like, it won't hold off changing gears until 7,000 RPM or something like that. It actually changes gears at reasonable revs. I mean, a bit higher than the standard GT mode, but it's not stupidly aggressive, so you could drive around like this actually and, you know, not look like a complete tool bag. Obviously, if you want to change gears yourself, you just hit the M button down here. You've got D and M, but you can use the paddles while you're in D if you want to just quickly downshift, and it will revert back to D eventually. Whereas if you want full control, hit M, and then it's completely manual. Excellent torque from this engine. 620 Newton meters, available from around 3,000 RPM. It really hammers along, and it sounds awesome. Like, this is definitely over and above anything else in this class in terms of the sound and excitement. It is a slightly rear biased four-wheel drive system, so you can kick the tail out a little bit. Just then we hit the red line, so it doesn't upshift automatically. It does require you to pull the paddle. So let's see how we go through this bumpy section. I've got it in the sport mode, or the firmest setting. And yeah, it's ironing over these bumps. It's not bouncing me around all over the place. Superb suspension setup. I think I prefer this over the Stelvio's suspension setup, although that, as I said, it is quite good. You can definitely get some tail out action happening as well. Although the suspension in the Stelvio is very good, this is just more dynamic. Yeah, this definitely feels like a driver's SUV. This is not mucking around. This is a high-end and very serious product. Good brakes. I've got plenty of feel. And they're pulling this thing up, no problem. This does weigh just under 2,000 kilograms, so it's pretty heavy, but it does not feel like it at all. Like, you can just throw it around like it's a little hot hatch, basically. Seems to have a good differential as well. Like, it's if you get on the power, you can kind of manipulate the direction of the vehicle using the power, or rely on the torque distribution to get you around the corner. But that engine, yeah, it's just got so much pull, and it sounds so good. Having those long paddle shifters definitely helps, because when you're turning, you know, your hands might be in this position, you can still grab the paddle. Down around that corner, which is off camber and downhill, pretty ordinary surface. This thing just grips up and slingshots you around. So even when you're driving kind of mildly aggressively, you've got all the pops and bangs from the exhaust, but they're not as loud and not as extended as when you're fully giving it some, which, yeah, adds excitement in normal conditions. Masterpiece. The engine especially just really stands out, and it just hammers along. Gearbox is very precise as well, even though it's not a dual clutch gearbox, changing down exactly when I pull the paddle, upshifting exactly when I pull the paddle as well. Yeah, I think the standout is the drive character. Like, the interior and all that, the design is special, but it's not, you know, $200,000 special in my opinion. Whereas the driving character, the engine and the suspension, as well as the steering, I suppose, it's just, yeah, on a upper level for this class. It really stands out. Would I buy one of these over a Stelvio Quadrifoglio? Look, if I had the money, I would, just because of that suspension system, but overall the performance is very similar. As you'll see in the upcoming performance test, 0 to 100 and all of that is very, very close. Because this is a little bit heavier than the Alfa Romeo with the extra luxuries, the air suspension and all that, you're getting a similar power to weight ratio, even though this does have a little bit more power and torque. But overall, masterpiece of an engine and excellent suspension setup and steering. All right, let's head out now to the private road and do the performance test and see what it goes like.